What if I told you that right now, behind closed doors in central banks and financial institutions across the world, something massive is quietly taking shape? Something that could reset parts of the global financial system. Two currencies once overlooked, the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong, are suddenly at the center of serious discussions, and it's not just talk anymore. Major moves are being made by the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, and key financial bodies in Vietnam. Today, we're breaking it all down: what's changing, why banks are moving first, and how this shift could ripple across global markets. So grab your coffee, settle in, and stay till the end, because by the time we're done, you'll see why the dinar and dong might be writing the next big chapter in financial history. As of 2025, global finance is entering a period of recalibration. Inflation pressures, currency realignments, and shifting trade dynamics have pushed central banks worldwide to reassess their positions. Amid all this noise, the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong are showing new signs of strength. Both countries are implementing serious economic and banking reforms, and those actions are starting to attract global attention. In Iraq, the CBI's recent modernization drive has been aimed at stabilizing the currency and aligning it with international standards. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, the state bank has been fine-tuning monetary policy to maintain growth while managing inflation and currency stability. Together, these two emerging economies are starting to send a strong signal. They're no longer content to sit on the sidelines of global finance. They're preparing to play a bigger role. One of the first signs that something big is happening comes from the banking sector itself. Across Iraq, commercial banks have begun upgrading digital systems, enhancing compliance with international transfer protocols, and tightening coordination with the CBI. These moves may sound technical, but they often signal a country's readiness for greater financial integration. In Vietnam, banks are seeing a similar transformation, with new partnerships forming between state and private institutions to support larger volumes of international trade. When banks move first, it usually means policy changes are close behind. Analysts and financial observers are paying close attention because these updates are rarely random. They usually precede shifts in monetary policy, revaluation discussions, or steps toward currency liberalization. Let's zoom out for a moment. The world economy in 2025 is different from what it was just a few years ago. Supply chain disruptions, post-pandemic recovery, and geopolitical realignments have made nations rethink where and how they do business. Oil manufacturing and digital finance are reshaping trade routes. Iraq, sitting on massive oil reserves, and Vietnam, leading Asia's manufacturing surge, are positioned at two strategic crossroads of global trade. When countries with such potential begin improving their financial systems simultaneously, markets take notice. Global investors are not just watching their currencies, they're watching their policy choices, infrastructure projects, and long-term strategies. Because all of these factors influence currency strength over time. In Iraq, the central bank has been one of the most active institutions this year. From revising banking laws to introducing new digital payment systems, the CBI has been laying the groundwork for a stronger, more transparent financial sector. Oil revenue remains Iraq's lifeline, but leaders are determined to diversify. Major projects in agriculture, construction, and renewable energy have been launched to reduce dependency on oil exports. The government is also working closely with the private sector to stimulate employment and entrepreneurship. All these reforms feed directly into currency stability. A stronger domestic economy with diversified income streams often leads to a more valuable and trusted currency over time. Meanwhile, Vietnam continues to be one of Asia's most remarkable economic stories. For decades, it has built itself into a manufacturing hub that rivals larger nations. Exports of electronics, textiles, and machinery continue to rise, while foreign companies are increasing their investments in Vietnamese production. The government's push for technological advancement, coupled with efficient trade agreements, keeps Vietnam's economy on a steady upward path. The State Bank of Vietnam is carefully managing exchange rates and liquidity to support this growth. For the Vietnamese dong, gradual appreciation isn't out of the question, especially as international investors gain confidence in the country's long-term stability and economic discipline. At first glance, Iraq and Vietnam might seem worlds apart. One is an oil powerhouse in the Middle East, the other is a manufacturing engine in Southeast Asia, yet both nations share something important: the determination to strengthen their financial independence. Their central banks have been engaging in quiet but significant modernization projects that bring them closer to international systems. Both countries are increasing their participation in regional trade partnerships, improving currency management frameworks, and adopting advanced banking technologies. These steps may eventually lead to broader acceptance of their currencies in international trade. In other words, what we're witnessing is not just national reform, it's a regional shift in financial power. Over the past months, several moves by the CBI have drawn attention. Enhanced coordination with local banks, new currency control measures, and digital tracking of international transactions have strengthened transparency and trust. The CBI's decision to upgrade its international banking software, improve liquidity management, and promote financial inclusion are not small steps. They are part of a larger blueprint. The bank's strategy appears focused on stability first, then gradual expansion. When a central bank modernizes operations and strengthens reserves, it sets the stage for a stronger currency environment. Financial observers believe these are the kind of foundational changes that must happen before any revaluation or currency adjustment can even be discussed seriously. One of the most powerful forces shaping the dinar and dong's future is digital transformation. Iraq has launched nationwide digital banking initiatives, encouraging citizens to use e-payments and online banking platforms. This shift not only improves convenience, but also helps track and stabilize the money supply. In Vietnam, fintech is booming. Mobile payment apps, blockchain-based solutions, and AI-driven banking systems are reshaping the way money moves. These technological upgrades make both nations more attractive to global investors and trading partners. Modern financial systems reduce and increase confidence. And when confidence grows, currencies tend to strengthen. The movement toward digital banking is more than just modernization. It's preparation for deeper global financial participation. International financial institutions are not ignoring these changes. Global banks and investment funds are starting to include Iraq and Vietnam in emerging market watch lists. This attention doesn't happen overnight. It builds as reforms become consistent and credible. Iraq's ongoing engagement with regional and global economic platforms, and Vietnam's growing trade relations with major economies, are part of the same pattern. When both countries continue to modernize their financial systems, international institutions see lower risk and higher opportunity. These are the early signs that can lead to stronger foreign reserves, better credit ratings, and ultimately, more resilient currencies. Iraq's economy still relies heavily on oil exports, which makes global energy prices a crucial factor in the dinar's stability. However, as renewable energy gains traction and oil markets stabilize, Iraq has a chance to use its revenues to invest in non-oil sectors. Meanwhile, Vietnam's export machine keeps running strong, with trade routes expanding toward the Middle East, Europe, and North America. Both countries are effectively balancing their strengths. When oil and manufacturing combine with strong fiscal management, the result is long-term economic durability. This kind of durability supports steady currency growth rather than volatile swings. And that's what global investors want to see. Another clear signal of confidence is foreign direct investment (FDI). Iraq has been seeing renewed interest from investors in energy, logistics, and construction. Major infrastructure projects funded by both domestic and international sources are underway. Vietnam, on the other hand, continues to attract big names from technology and manufacturing sectors. FDI doesn't just bring money, it brings expertise, jobs, and long-term business relationships. When investors commit capital to a country, they also commit confidence to its currency. Both Iraq and Vietnam are now in the stage where consistent policy and steady governance are encouraging long-term investment. and that momentum has a direct connection to currency strength. Regional integration is another important driver. Iraq has been working to strengthen trade ties with neighboring countries through infrastructure and logistics cooperation. The country's participation in regional energy projects and digital trade networks adds value to its economy. Vietnam, meanwhile, continues to leverage its position within major trade agreements, including partnerships across Asia and Europe. As trade expands, the demand for local currencies in regional transactions often increases. That means more dinar and dong being used internationally, a vital step toward global currency acceptance. These regional movements are not just economic strategies. They are building blocks for future financial independence. Currencies rise on one foundation above all: trust, and that's exactly what both Iraq and Vietnam are building. The CBI's commitment to transparency, tighter regulations, and international cooperation is rebuilding confidence among global financial players. In Vietnam, consistent policy and data-driven decision-making are doing the same. The more predictable and transparent a financial system becomes, the more likely investors and traders are to use its currency. Transparency also helps control inflation, reduce corruption, and attract institutional investment, all essential for long-term currency appreciation. This process takes time, but both countries are showing the kind of consistency that suggests real progress. While currency discussions often sound technical, the real impact is always on the people. In Iraq, a more stable dinar could mean higher purchasing power and lower inflation for ordinary citizens. It could mean that salaries stretch further, savings hold more value, and local businesses can plan ahead with confidence. In Vietnam, a stronger dong supports continued wage growth and access to imported goods at better rates. For both nations, a stable and strengthening currency represents progress, not just in numbers but in quality of life. The human side of economic reform is often overlooked, but it's the ultimate goal behind every banking and currency policy. Of course, no transformation happens without challenges. Iraq still faces issues related to bureaucracy, political disagreements, and dependence on oil revenues. Vietnam, too, must balance rapid growth with inflation control and global competitiveness. Both nations must navigate external pressures, from global energy shifts to regional trade tensions. But here's what makes this moment different. Both countries are addressing these challenges with long-term planning instead of short-term fixes. That's the hallmark of maturity in national financial management, and a strong signal to markets that these currencies are on the path to greater stability. When emerging currencies like the dinar and dong grow stronger, the effects reach far beyond national borders. It changes trade balances, investment flows, and even geopolitical influence. Stronger regional currencies can reduce reliance on traditional global reserve currencies and create new trade networks that operate more independently. This is why many economists see Iraq and Vietnam's moves as part of a larger global shift, a rebalancing of financial power. As countries modernize and strengthen their currencies, the entire global economy benefits from greater diversity and resilience. So, what's next? Experts are closely monitoring the next rounds of monetary policy announcements from both the CBI and the State Bank of Vietnam. They're watching for signals, changes in reserve ratios, exchange rate management updates, or new digital banking frameworks. Every small policy detail can indicate the next phase of these countries' currency journeys. For viewers and investors alike, staying informed is the smartest move. Understanding the why behind these shifts helps you prepare for the when. The more data and transparency that become available, the clearer the picture will be about where the dinar and dong are headed next. In the end, the story of the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong isn't just about exchange rates. It's about transformation, resilience, and the courage to rebuild trust in financial systems. Both Iraq and Vietnam are showing that nations can rise from challenge to strength through consistent reform and global cooperation. Whether you're an investor, an analyst, or simply someone curious about world economics, this moment is one to watch closely, because when two rising currencies begin to set a new global wave in motion, history doesn't just happen, It's built, step by step, by the people and institutions who refuse to stand still. Stay tuned because as the CBI and banks move first, the world might just be preparing for what comes next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more updates on the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, and everything shaping the future of global finance. This is Iraqi Dinar News, bringing you truth, clarity, and insight into the world of currencies that are rewriting the financial playbook.